Stories from the Shed. My name is Adam, your host. Hi.
Hold on. You started talking before it started recording.
Oh, that's good. I don't even have an intro for you yet.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, I have one for you.
Okay, go for
Okay,
it.
hold on.
Introduce us.
Well, I will, but I need to pause.
Get rid of this shit. Stop. We don't need that fucking redness.
Thank you for listening to Stories from the Shed. My name is Jake. To my left, I have a man who thinks we need a second intro and then started recording an intro before the recorder even started. Adam, how are you?
I'm
As
great.
of 10 minutes ago?
I'm great. I'm ready for episode 2. I'm refreshed. I had my Gatorade. I got my electrolytes up.
Wow, that Gatorade looks a lot like a beer.
It's a beerinade.
It's a beerinade.
We'll leave the Gatorades to Jason. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
Fired up?
Fired up.
All right.
What were we talking about 10 minutes ago?
I think we were talking
Maura
about...
Murray.
Oh, that's right. I
That's
already
right.
forgot.
How could we forget?
No, we can't.
No, you can't.
We've been living this now for...
A week.
I don't know, a little bit longer. I've been living this for a little while. I've heard about this one for...
I've been sleeping, and shitting Maura Murray for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Me too. I mean, I can't... I got to be honest. I'll tell the listeners this. Past 3 nights, night 1 and night 2, I had nightmares. I couldn't sleep thinking about this, and I woke up this morning, and it's on my mind. It's... You know, and when you do this podcast and you do these kind of things and you eat shit and sleep, all this stuff, you end up, I don't know, it drains you in some kind of way. You know what I mean?
Well,
you know, it's always on your mind. I go to my day job and I take my lunch break, and what do?
Google.
Fucking go to my car and Google. I mean, Maura Murray, I'm like researching things. I want to know, you know, I'm on the Facebook. I mean, my lunch break is not a lunch break. I'm on.
No, it's more work, really, is what it is.
Right. You know, it's.
But the difference between this work and that work is we actually like doing this work.
This is very fulfilling, even in a fun hobbyist type way.
It is.
Yeah, and not only that, but you get to help the people that are looking for missing people in their lives. Like these people have families, and these families don't have any closure as to what happened to my son or my daughter or my aunt or you name it.
I got to say, I love the some of the responses I've gotten. You know, I mean, I've been kind of manning a lot of the social media, and I put some of our information out there to, you know, as far as some of the episodes we've done, I've sent it out to the people that are still thinking about these people as far as social media goes.
Yep.
And I'm getting positive responses. It's very encouraging, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you almost feel like you're doing something good. I mean, we're doing our part
Yeah.
with this, Jason. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, any one new person who learns about a case can potentially be the one who cracks the case. So that's very important. I know if I was a family member, I would appreciate anybody just saying the name.
Of course.
It's important to keep the names alive over time so people don't forget about, hey, this person is still missing. We really need to help these people.
Right.
And I think this might be a good time to give that one shout out to the Missing Maura Murray podcast.
Yep. The information they have on this is plenty.
Yeah, those two guys, they...
Yeah, they got, what, 70-something episodes?
90-something.
90-something?
And
Oh, my
I-
Jesus Christ.
And I'll be
still
honest, I love their passion for it. I love what
right?
they're doing. Keep up
Yeah.
the good work, guys, if you hear this.
Yeah, I listened to 2 or 3 just this week, just between the other podcasts I listened to and not having enough time to listen at work and whatever. But they do a really, really good job. The 2 that I listened to were very thorough, and they were very entertaining.
If they're hearing this, I hope we're not shaming them, because they're those guys are really
Yeah, they do a great job.
putting in the effort here.
Yeah,
and,
guys, shame on you for doing good work.
No, well, you know, I just, you know, give
just
credit
fucking
where
with
credit's due. But so I got to bring up...
Speaking of give credit where credit is due, you want to tell us about a book that you won't read 200 pages of?
Well, here's the thing. I in doing the preparation for this episode, in the past episode, I like to get as much information as I can in there. So on top of like
You
researching,
spend all week doing research.
I do.
No joke.
And I
That's
like
the
to
fun part.
Blow up my phone all week.
And you know what? I hope you don't hate it, because I'm going to keep doing it.
No, I don't. But I like listening to you tell the story. You're so good at telling the story because you take that time to go and do all the research, and that's invaluable to us as a team to make this podcast work.
And I'm buying the books, and I have opinions on what's his name, James Renner.
Yeah, he's one of the...
And I got to be honest with you.
Can we get to the book, and then we'll talk about that fucking freak
well,
show.
there's a couple of books out there, and I got the Be on the Lookout by David Blake. Now, here's the thing. I read the back of the book because I gotta give a shout out here in some regard, but in some regard, because the back of the book sounds like it's going to be a lot of information on Maura Murray, and you look at the research on Amazon, you're like, shit, this is like a few hundred pages. I'm gonna get some information on this. I'm gonna highlight it. I'm gonna pass it to Jason, put some notes in the cleavage of the book, and maybe he can add to it, that kind of a thing. But what I got to is that basically, we've got maybe 70 pages of what's known about Maura Murray, and the rest of it is a fictional story. I don't even need to really get into it because it doesn't matter, but I don't know. I'm like, we don't need enough. We don't need more fiction thrown into the Maura Murray case than, to go with the speculation and the other bullshit.
There's plenty of it to go around.
There's a lot of it. I mean, this is a case full of shit, and we would like to see an end to it, all of us. I mean, especially the more that we've dug into this.
Yeah, there's just so many conflicting details and little things that you're like, why the fuck didn't you do this? Or why did you say this?
Right.
There's so much to process.
Every story is a never-ending rabbit hole. Just keeps going and going and going.
What do they call that? The red herring? That kind of thing. But what I do got to say about this book, because having said what I've said, I do like how in the introductions he does give a lot of the good information about Maura Murray in the first introduction 1 and 2, and then I also like that part of the purchase of this book does go to the Murray family and helping to look for Maura.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
It is. But I got to tell our listeners here, if you're looking for a good Maura Murray book, it might not be out there, but this is a good book to get. You do get some of the facts. You do get a fictional story about her and a professor and all that, but it's a recommended read, I guess you could say, but just take it with a grain of salt. This is the author's first book. Check it out. There is another book on the subject. It's written by, what's the name, James Renner?
James Renner. He's kind of a tool bag.
Well, here's the thing about him. I will say with the Amy Mihalovic case, I don't know if you guys have checked that out. He did do a good job with that.
Is that the other girl that...
It's
wrecked around the same area?
No. This is one that this is in
right.
Ohio, I believe. But he did do a great job with this. With this one here, I think he ran into the same problem that the original author David Blake ran into, I should say, where there isn't a novel to necessarily write. So he started throwing a lot of speculation into it, and in my opinion, all that does is it kind of makes the case harder to solve. I mean, you start saying things like her father may be essentially, doing incest, right, Jason? Was that what you...
That's what he says. I haven't found any other evidence on that at all from any source.
I haven't either. And that there's... I even heard something about pornographic material with pictures of... Fred having pornographic material and pictures of his nieces, in between the pages. I don't know anything about that either. Another thing that James Renner says... These beers are kicking in, I guess. Is that
you're telling me?
I know. Well, another thing he says is that I can't remember where I was going with this. Is that the everybody involved in this case is lying?
Yeah, he does say that quite often.
He
thinks he knows exactly what happened, and it doesn't involve her.
Oh, well, here's the thing, James Renner. Here's the thing, James Renner. Were you there? You don't know what happened.
He very well may have been. He might as well be a suspect. Everyone else is.
I don't want to shit all over him because he has done.
He's probably the biggest suspect because he's making up the biggest fucking bullshit.
He's not helping things, and the thing is that I don't want to shit all over him. He did sell the rights to his book. This is what I've heard. I mean, I don't know if it's a hardcore fact, but I heard that he sold the rights to his book to Johnny Depp's team, and they're going to be kind of Hollywood glorifying this thing.
Some more bullshit then.
From what I understand, Johnny Depp's going fucking broke.
So anyways, but James Renner, take him with a grain of salt too. I guess on this part 2 of Maura Murray, we're going to be kind of diving into some of the speculation behind her disappearance and what might have happened, what might not have happened.
Yeah, we'll give you guys a little bit of what we think happened.
Yeah, and it doesn't start, we touched on it a little bit in the part 1 where in June of 2005, a blonde-haired girl resembling Maura was seen at a was it a church in Barton, Vermont?
Well, actually, it says a steak with blonde hair.
A steak.
He was hungry, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was one of those things. But anyway, so this is really quickly dismissed. But in June of 2006,
New York ribeye.
Yeah, I'm hungry now. It's getting late in the shed.
Yeah.
A girl resembling Maura is seen at a Cumberland Farms in Hillsborough, New Hampshire, with an older male companion.
This is in 2006.
The girl is mouthing, help me, supposedly. I don't know if you guys heard anything
I
about
have heard
that.
about that a little bit. And the witness said she kind of resembled Maura, but she also, for some reason, didn't get a good look and also didn't think to take down a license plate number or register what kind of truck it was or anything. So that's kind of, I don't know. I guess sometimes you're in that situation to say your brain can freeze and not think about all that. But to me, I would immediately take down a license plate number if I saw somebody mouthing help me.
Have you dug into much of the reported sightings of her? Have you seen any? Have you read into any of that?
I've heard about a few of them. Somebody said that they have seen her working at a gas station in Maine. Other people have said Sherbrooke, Canada. Actually, that's one of James Renner's biggest theories, is that she basically left the crash site, ran away, started a new life, and she's living up in Sherbrooke, Canada.
Now, the sightings there were of her in a gym.
In a gym, which would make sense. She's very athletic. So
Right.
I mean, we can't completely rule that out, could we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because
No.
what do we know? What do we know about her? We know that her car was crashed on 112 that night,
And she hasn't been seen since.
and she hasn't
Right.
been seen since. And the time that Butch Atwood went into his house and went back into the bus, and also was it the Westmans that thought they saw that somebody might have been with Maura?
Yeah, what they said is that they saw a orange light in the passenger seat of her car. They thought at the time that it might have been somebody smoking a cigarette, maybe a man. But it also, Adam and I have done some research into this, and the model of cell phone that she had at the time was actually known to have kind of an orange light as it was charging. And one of the items found in her car was a car charger, so it's possible that...
It's possible it was her phone.
Yeah, she could have been holding it up, seeing if she can get cell phone signal, make a phone call.
Right. Keeping it plugged in just to keep it charged. Maybe
Yep.
it was dying.
Yep,
It's also possible that there might have been somebody there with her.
it's possible.
Yep.
You
Absolutely.
can't rule anything out with this case.
You really can't. Even the sightings up in Canada. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be possible. I mean, you could run away. You could go up to Canada,
Right.
and maybe somehow over a period of time be able to assume some kind of identity where you're able to work, where you're able to get along and do your thing. I mean, we can't completely take that out of the equation.
All right, and one of the things that I had heard as far as the new identity, of course, that's an incredibly difficult task to have, is to come up with a new identity and not be found for what's going on 15 years now. But one thing about Maura in her past that we didn't get to was that she actually got caught for credit card fraud while she was at UMass. She ordered a bunch of pizza with disabled credit card. So
Yeah, she spent like $80 at Domino's or something like that.
she must have been hungry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How much
Not my
weed did
fucking
you smoke,
choice.
Maura?
Not my fucking choice.
No
Oh,
way.
dude, it's so much better
Those
than
are
Pizza
$5
Hut, though.
pizzas, man.
You're in Massachusetts. You got all these options.
Okay, so if you're gonna buy a $5 pizza, would you buy Little Caesars or would you buy Domino's? Because realistically, I still feel like Domino's is better than anything that Little Caesars will ever produce.
I
ever.
would go to the nearest
Ever.
gas station that is open, and I would buy their pizza because gas stations have the best pizza.
Some
Usually
of
you're
them.
right, but you know what?
Some of them.
I think what he's getting to here is that she's got reason to try to run away. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, and not only that, but if she has the ability to steal a credit card or the willingness to steal a credit card, I don't know if either of you have done any college classes, but you can meet some shady people there who can come up with new documentation, IDs, fake IDs, stuff like that.
I believe it.
She could have figured something out.
Oh, very easy. She might know somebody who would make it a little easier for her to disappear.
Now, if we're gonna say that she took off, Jake, they say her tree hit a car.
Her tree hit a car.
her car hit
by
it.
the way, she drove a tree.
Her tree there hit the car.
Her
there.
tree hit the car there.
But anyways, her car hit a tree.
Right.
I mean, you're a guy that works in the with vehicles.
Thank you for making that transition so much easier because I was trying to make that work.
You know what?
So, so I've been looking while Adam and Jason have been talking. I've been trying to find pictures of the Saturn because what really confuses me about this is people say that, or it's said that her car hit a tree. And when I look at this, I work in this industry. I repair accidents all day long. There's a couple things that stick out to me about this car. This car is all plastic, number one. Saturns, I don't know if any of our listeners know, Saturn was basically the cheap GM car. Saturn was its own kind of, I guess, brand underneath GM, and they designed their cars to be light and good on gas and just basic everyday cars that people could rely on. 90% of the body panels on these cars are hard plastic, so when you crash, they break. They don't bend and do weird things like I guess a normal car would be. Like normally your fenders are metal, your doors are metal, all of that. The Saturns are all plastic. So I'm looking at pictures of this Saturn right now, and I think you guys can both see that.
Yeah, where did it hit a tree?
See, to me, it looks like it hit a tree at the very corner of the hood and the driver's fender. But what confuses me is if you hit a tree, the dent is only in the very front of the hood and the fender and the headlight.
Kind of
obviously, both. It definitely is high, because if it hit a tree, it would have cracked that bumper sheer in half and split this other side right off, the driver's side part of the bumper where it meets the fender. You would think it would split it all the way down the middle, but it didn't. So I almost wonder if she didn't hit a tree, but she hit something else.
And also, I would think it would
snowbank?
break that headlight.
It's possible.
That headlight, I don't think would survive hitting a tree either.
No, I don't think it would either, because, like I said, the car's all plastic, and 90% of cars now have plastic headlights.
Right.
Mine happens to have glass.
Wasn't it reported that they assumed that she had hit a snowbank?
Well, they said that she'd hit a tree, but I think it looks a little more consistent with a snowbank.
Yeah.
See, I think so too, because if she had hit a tree, I just feel like everything would be crushed right where it is.
And Jake would
And
know.
it's not.
I mean, he looks at this stuff every day.
It looks obviously damaged. Obviously, you can see the hood is all bent up, and it looks like the fender is bowed out. So clearly, it bent something in the front end of the car, but it doesn't look like it hit a tree to me. I just feel like there would be more little pieces and little broken things. It looked like she bumped into something really hard.
Well, let me ask you
And
this.
it absorbed some of it.
Let me ask you this, because this is also part of the theory. Does it look like she may have hit a person?
Oh, that's a... See, there's no blood on the car. And what's weird is when she hit, the airbags went off too, right? And
Yes.
the windshield's all shattered. So you would think if the windshield's all shattered, she would have hit her head.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it does look like maybe her head hit the windshield.
It does, but there are people who have seen the car who said it also kind of looks a little more like something hit the windshield from the outside.
Okay.
Which I would believe too, because I've done that to people I don't like.
Now, while we're talking about this car, Jake, could you explain the rag in the exhaust? Because it comes out that her father, Fred, had told her to do this. I guess when you're stopped, it reduces the exhaust, the smoke, right?
Right.
And it might reduce your chances of getting pulled over. I mean, as a guy that works with vehicles every day.
But why would you want to do that? I don't understand.
That exhaust has to go somewhere.
But what do you mean? I guess, what do you mean when you say it's supposed to reduce smoke? What are you trying to accomplish by putting a rag in your tailpipe?
Jason, have you read anything about this, about the rag in the tailpipe?
Basically what I read about it, apparently she had talked to her brother between a week or 2 weeks before the accident happened, and he kind of brought up the rag in the tailpipe because they were talking about how Fred was going to be buying Maura a new car. And she basically told her brother that Fred told her to put a rag in the tailpipe to keep the exhaust from coming out, because the amount of exhaust that she has would have her basically get pulled over. Car probably wasn't too street legal at this point.
It was probably burning a bunch of oil or something.
In fact, he told her not to drive it.
But even then,
he did tell her not to drive it. She was losing oil. And one of the theories her brother had was that the reason it was in her tailpipe at the time of the accident was that she was driving on the back roads of New Hampshire, obviously through the mountains. So she may have thought that putting the rag in the tailpipe to cover up the hole in her exhaust would actually give her more power to get up the hills.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense to me, because when you're giving it gas, it's going to be pushing exhaust out of the exhaust system.
pushing the
He did say that the rag
Right.
was blown out relatively frequently, so he thinks if she did put it in her tailpipe, it was pretty shortly before the accident while she was going up the mountains.
Now, is it possible she put it in after she wrecked the car, though?
It is.
Maybe to reduce the smoke, to reduce sighting?
I'm glad you said that, because
I would
evidence
say.
shows she tried to start the car, I think, 7 times.
Right.
And the thing with that Saturn, we learned about this when we watched some documentary on YouTube this week.
Yeah.
Those Saturns, I don't know if the newer ones have it, but after the airbags go off,
Black box.
there's every airbag system is super complicated, but this one seems to have an extra feature. After the airbags go off, you have to turn the key all the way back and pull the key out and then put it back in, and then you can restart the car. If you just turn the key back and try to start it, which it actually was found in some sort of diagnostic or some sort of computer in the car, that she had tried to start the car like 6 or 7 times after the wreck.
And Fred Murray had put the key in and it started right up. So that makes sense.
Right.
Because the keys were not found in the vehicle.
Right. It was actually found locked.
Right. And Fred had found, I don't know if he had another key. I think he found he had that little magnetic thing under the car where there's a spare key maybe.
Yeah, supposedly he had left a spare key on that car, probably.
That just does not seem like a good idea.
It's probably not, but I know a lot of people with their teenage children more than likely are going to lock yourself out of your car more than once, so it might just be an easy fix.
I mean, this guy has all kinds of great ideas, like stuffing rags in tailpipes.
And he's in Connecticut, and she's at UMass. It's not like she can just call and say, "Hey, Dad, I locked myself out. Could you bring me the keys?" So.
No, that's true. But maybe in 2019 now. That's weird to say, but in 2019, I definitely wouldn't do it because now cars have key fobs, and you can walk up to your car and it unlocks. And if it thinks that the key is near the car, it automatically unlocks. So you may go to Walmart, go do groceries, you lock the car, and you come back, it's unlocked. Well, why the fuck is that? Because the key's underneath the car.
Yep.
Maura didn't have that with this vehicle, though.
Well, no, this is also 2004.
Now, so that's what we got on the vehicle. And as far as her, maybe what? I mean,
there is a witness that said that after the accident, I believe it was the Westman, said that they saw her near the back of the car. Scrambling potentially in her trunk. So that rag that was in her tailpipe was from her emergency roadside kit. So
maybe she stuffed it in right at the accident.
That's what it would maybe seem like.
Wouldn't she still be at the car, though?
But she should be. But one of the other things, too, is when she was found, the car was almost full on gas. So she could have put the rag in there shortly before when she stopped to fill up.
But you're saying
it's possible, but she'd have to be going really slow. She'd have to accelerate really slow. And it also depends on how she put it in, too. Because if she just kind of wrapped it around the tailpipe and didn't...
That wouldn't last long.
Well, it depends on if she zip tied it down or...
Right.
The image looks like it's just stuffed in.
Yeah, the image looks like she just kind of pushed it in the muffler and just hoped it stayed.
Yeah.
And I know just from the little bit that I do deal with mechanically, that if you're given that little 4-cylinder gas and you got to go up a hill, these little Saturns only have like 100 horses. They're not super powerful cars. So you got to really step on it to get up a real steep hill. So if there are any hills in her drive, and let's remember, she's driving through Appalachia. It's New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont. It's all mountains where she's trying to go. She's going to have to work that pretty hard. And I find it hard to believe that rag stayed in for a very long time.
Do you think it would help with the torque, though? Like, do you think
I don't think so.
In the exhaust would make a difference of her getting up those mountainous hills?
I think it would be louder, and I think if an exhaust leak is big enough, it definitely affects performance. I know that for sure, dealing with turbo cars the last 5 years of my life. Having an exhaust leak, if it's big enough, will definitely impact your performance. Just as an example, I have a 93 Saab 9000 Aero that I'm parting out right now, and there's no exhaust from the downpipe, and the downpipe is the exhaust pipe that comes off the turbo, and it stops right behind the motor, and it takes forever to start because there's no back pressure, and it finally does start, and when it starts, it's loud and it grumbles, and when I give it gas, it bogs because there's nothing feeding it back.
Right. I'm glad you bring that up because I believe the state police took out her exhaust system to check it out, and there wasn't any abnormalities with it.
Right.
No, that's good to know.
But still, but we just got to throw that out there now.
Right. So with the rag, to me, it just seems like she left it in there maybe just to kind of hide the smoke a little bit, just from sitting.
And it's known advice from her father, so we can just probably rule this out as being any kind of weird thing.
I would think if it was something suspicious, Fred would be all over it.
Of course.
Right,
so let's just throw this one out, you guys are saying?
I say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to bring this up, and I know some of our listeners might say, what about it, but whatever. We got to talk about some of the psychic stuff that was going on, because with a lot of these unsolved cases, nowadays it is common to bring in some of these psychics. And
did you remember to bring the tarot cards?
Well, I'm not going to get into it, but I've got relatives
board.
that have met with psychics, and sometimes they know things that... How the hell do they know this shit? Yep. You can't throw that out. I mean, you can't bring a psychic to court, but you can't throw it out when you're looking for help on a case like this.
The FBI regularly uses psychics. They just don't openly broadcast that.
Do you know anything about the psychic investigation in Maura Murray?
I don't know too much about it. I know that one of the psychics said something about a lake or something that was relative. They said a name, and there was a name of a lake nearby that matched the name. They said something about the case might have something to do with an eagle, and one of the suspects has an eagle tattoo, which is kind of interesting.
Now, that was a Gregory Floyd.
Gregory Floyd, yep.
Yeah, no, Gregory Floyd, I think, is that all that ties him in? Is that he lived in the area and he has an eagle tattoo and he's known for being a piece of shit?
He's basically, he's known for being a piece of shit. There was actually a case in 2011 where there was a state police officer had stopped a man named Lico McKinney. Some sort of scuffle ensued, and McKinney actually pulled the officer's revolver and actually killed the officer. Now, while that happened, Gregory Floyd actually witnessed it, and Gregory Floyd actually took the officer's revolver and shot Lico McKinney dead. So his name's kind of all over the place with that case.
So Gregory Floyd, he's just a troublemaker that lived in the area.
Yeah, he lived on Route 112, which is of course where she disappeared, and obviously was a relatively unsavory character for the police department. It's just kind of known in that area, but there's not really too much connecting him directly to the crime scene.
So you fellas would say we can't rule him in, but we can't rule him out, kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Now, another thing I had heard, one of the psychics that had gone to the scene to check it out was that, excuse me, was that Maura was drunk and that she had hit her head. Now, this is a psychic.
Well, that's pretty obvious just from the broken wine box in her car.
You can very easily see it.
She took the Kahlua and vodka with her, though.
She was in this
you gotta
story.
stay warm somehow.
In the psychic version of this story, she was kind of disoriented. She walked to a stream nearby. Do you guys remember the name? I don't. It's like some kind of.
There was a stream nearby. I don't remember.
Native
the name,
American type name, like we have up here a lot.
Swift I or something.
But
I'll look it up.
Anyway, I want to say ayahuasca. But
I love them.
ayahuasca.
I like the names, like the Native American names.
Ayahuasca stream.
Something nice. Anyway, so she's
something.
sitting next to it in the psychic's reading, and she falls asleep. And when she comes to, hypothermia has set in. She's doesn't have her wits about her, and she goes into the water, and is swept off. I don't know if you guys have heard anything about that.
I've heard a little something about that. I've also heard evidence that river particularly is a very, very calm river. It's almost like a lake where the current probably wouldn't have taken her too far downstream, if at all. But, I mean, over 36 hours, if you're getting swept downstream, you can go quite a ways in 36 hours, I would assume.
You got that right, Jason. I heard the same thing about that body of water, is that something ironic about the name, about it being swift.
The Indian name means like swift moving river or something like that, and it's exactly the opposite.
But that's not the case, even in the spring.
Right. Even with the thaw, yep.
But that was something that I heard. There was something else about a psychic, about her running into a character almost like a Ted Bundy type guy, where he's very charming, able to draw the ladies in. Who knows? Maybe it was some guy that had a kid with him, that was able to draw in. And the fact is, like we said in part one, the scent is missing up front of the Atwood residence. So it looks like maybe she could have gotten into a vehicle with somebody.
It's debated that she could have got into a vehicle. I also want to point out that where she went missing was in front of the Atwood residence, but it was also on the opposite side of the street in front of Rick Forcier's house. And he's actually one of the prime suspects in the case. Yeah,
Rick Forcier is kind of a funny guy because I think he's given them a hard time with searches.
Yeah, they've asked to search his trailer, his property, pretty much everything that he has, and he's declined any invitation to help the case in any way, shape, or form. So,
like I always say, if you got nothing to hide nothing.
Right.
But Rick Forcier, he's also done other weird shit. Like he said that night Maura went knocking on his door. Did you hear about that, Jake?
I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of looking something up right now.
Jake's looking something up. Did you hear about that, Jason?
I did hear about that. One of his ex-wives was interviewed about kind of his character, and she said he was a little odd. She said that he talked to him, and he made a quote-unquote joke about how Maura showed up at his house the night that she disappeared. And he was also heard at, I believe, a country club or a gas station or something a couple months later, joking about how Maura is an excellent cook and lives in his basement. So
now, Rick Forcier is kind of a funny guy. I have done a little digging in on Rick Forcier, and I checked out some of his YouTube videos. He's an artistic guy. I got to say this. You know what? He's got more artistic ability than a lot of people. He's put out a lot of music videos.
He's
and
really
other
not
stuff.
bad either. I've heard some of his stuff.
I gotta agree. You know what? I gotta give a shout out to at least that.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much his behavior in the area, but Rick Forcier is an odd duck.
He is. He certainly is.
Let's bring it back to another guy in the area. Let's bring it back to Butch Atwood.
Before we do that, I finally found what I was looking for. I was looking for the name of that body of water near where the wreck was. We have the wild...
Yes, that one.
The wild
Ammonoosuc.
Ammonoosuc, yeah. The wild Ammonoosuc River, and then that's fairly close from where she was.
Close.
Because where she would have come around and spun around, it's maybe, half a mile down the road?
Yep.
Something like that.
Through the woods pretty quick.
Yep. And then a little bit further from there, maybe a mile or two, there was Mountain Lake, and that was to the west.
And you got to remember that she was a track star, so
it would not take her long to
anywhere
run
from
that.
2 to 5 miles is completely in ball game with this case.
Oh, absolutely.
She certainly could have covered that relatively quickly.
Oh yeah, with her age and her athletic talent and ability, of course.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but
yeah, Butch Atwood though, he one of the things about him is he's the last person to have seen Maura, so of course he's been investigated pretty thoroughly, and he basically claims that when he went inside, she was gone within an 8-minute period. And he actually failed the first lie detector test that police gave him. So,
and I gotta say something about that. He passed the second one, I think. And the thing is that, as a guy from New England, living in Maine, not too far from really where this happened, I'm not used to that kind of shit. I know you guys are not either.
Way.
And to be honest,
No.
I can honestly say, speaking for me and speaking for the two of you, if we were hooked up to a lie detector,
I'd fail immediately
and grilled by some
absolutely.
kind of a detective, I'd shit my pants. I'd be terrified.
I could know there's no evidence. I could know that I have not involved or never been in that area.
And you know
would
what? I can
fail.
also see in my mind. I mean, this is just the way my opinion goes. I feel like Butch Atwood was, and he's passed away since, but I feel like Butch Atwood was a good guy.
I do too. I agree.
Yeah.
That's my feeling about this guy. Well, you can't rule him out, and unfortunately, the guy can't speak for himself now because he's since passed. But
everything he did say, he had a very consistent story.
yeah, there's no signs that
his story never changed.
Never changed.
No, actually, it did.
It did?
Changed. It's changed a little bit, but here's the thing: I got to bring this up. It's known that, and I've heard this from, listening to other things, doing research, that eyewitnesses, and I'm quoting in the shed here right now, eyewitnesses a lot of times are not good sources.
They're really
because
not. Yeah,
here's the thing: Butch Atwood, this guy was in his 60s. I don't know how long the guy worked for the school driving buses, but I'll tell you what. This shit was BAU for this guy, business as usual. He was driving home, going to fill out his log and go home, have dinner with his wife, and move on with his life.
Yeah.
He came home, he says, on his way home, he says, oh, there's an accident here, I'll check it out. He didn't know that this was going to be like one of New Hampshire's, one of New England's, one of the United States' biggest missing people things. So he didn't maybe take down all the little details in his mind.
Yeah, this is a very uneventful area, and suddenly people have a huge event to try to
and the fact
remember all
is,
the details of.
living up here in the Northeast, our roads are shit, and it's not that uncommon to see a car flip the wrong way.
I was just going to say that because despite us being a non-eventful type of area, especially for the United States, when we do have an event like that, people do notice that stuff.
Absolutely.
But most of us just kind of want to be, live our own life, be on our own way. And if you stop and ask someone if they need help and they say no, okay, we assume you have it because you're telling us, yeah, you got it covered. Right. Because I believe she told him I cut AAA on the way. No worries. Oh, okay.
He knew that was bullshit. He knew that was bullshit, and that's why he called 911. But I got to say, you know what? My heart says we got to rule Butch out of this one. And my heart also says I need a beer.
Well, here's the problem. We already drank them all.
Well, oh, honey, I'm going inside. I'll be right back. We'll be right back, guys.
All right. Looks like a beer break.
Them beers are awfully good, but we're running low.
Yeah, that's okay. I've had a couple, and it's starting to kick in a little bit.
For sure. Wish I had some wings to go with that.
Oh, that would be great.
Wings.
Didn't we have a New Year's resolution to only drink in the shed?
I've been good with that, Jake. How about you?
Don't judge me. It has not been going well.
Where are we with this story? Who should we bring up next?
Oh God, there are so many people. You tell me. You get all the notes.
Should we talk about Forcier?
Yeah, let's go with Rick Forcier.
Ta-da-da, Forcier.
That's super French.
Yeah. Some people would say Forcier, but I call him Rick
Forcier.
Forcier because it's his name. Anyways, this guy has not allowed searches on his property in the past.
That's correct. And he actually took a second mortgage out on that house so he could build another place. Basically, the place he was living in at the time Maura disappeared was more of like a trailer type of deal. And when he moved to his new place, the second that they moved that trailer off the lot, the police pulled the driver over. And they pulled the driver over and actually ended up doing the search right then.
Okay, so that's kind of odd, you know. And I've read things where he may have not consented to searches because...
I heard that he may have been growing marijuana, which...
Some of that cannabis.
Yeah.
Now, where did he live exactly on 112?
Okay, if you look at the map, he's kind of right around...
Just right across from Butch
okay.
Atwood.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really, his driveway is on the next road over to the right.
And like I said before, this is also directly in front of where Maura went. The scent dogs lost their scent. It was right in front of Rick Forcier's house.
And,
okay.
and like we stated earlier, he said things to his ex-wife, like Maura had showed up at his door.
Yeah, she was a great cook.
And that she was living in his basement. So,
That's a fucked up sense of humor.
well, yeah, but you know what, though? We've all known guys to be a little fucky.
That's true.
Yeah,
you know?
I've got a sense of humor, but that's different. That's weird.
Yeah, but growing up in Maine, I don't know about you guys because you guys are kind of city folk. And I grew up kind of out here, and there's some people I talk to, and I'm just like, I could roll my fucking eyes. I'm just like, shut your fucking hole. You know what I mean?
Like, you know better than to say that.
And Rick Forcier is one of those shut your fucking hole kind of guys. He just hits me that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Pardon my French, but you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You just shut up.
Yep.
You know, I don't know. Maybe he's done something. He acts weird.
He definitely acts weird. I mean, even now, he actually has sold both of his houses now. He owns a little tool shed, and he sleeps in his van next to the tool shed every day.
Oh, what a weirdo.
Is he the musician? Is he the... He's the one that... Yeah. And he's got some pretty... he's a good musician. Check out his YouTube videos.
But he does write a song called The Stalker Song, which is kind of sketchy.
The Stalker Song.
You got anything on that?
Not really. Just I listened to it that one time that I heard it, and...
Was he the dude that uploaded the video to YouTube? That
No.
112?
No.
Whatever, dude. Can we just
Talk
bring that
about-
up real
bring
quick?
Bring it up.
Okay, so there was a YouTube video that was uploaded in what? It was
It was 2012, I believe.
So 8 years after she disappeared. It was the anniversary of Maura disappearing. And there was a YouTube video uploaded from a user called 112 Dirtbag. 112 was the route that Nora... I keep saying Nora because my sister's cat's name is Nora, and Maura and Nora are kind of the same thing, but they're not. Maura crashed on 112. And I guess Maura's father used to always call people...
Everybody associated with the case that might be a suspect, he calls a dirtbag.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Everybody's
that.
a fucking dirtbag here.
And it was what, like a 1.5-minute long video of this dude just laughing, like a weird, creepy kind of mad scientist laugh. And then at the end of the video, it says "Happy Anniversary."
It was weird.
It
It's
also shows
really
a
weird.
picture of her ski pass or something like that.
It does show that, yeah.
And that ski pass was dated like 2 days later, wasn't it?
2 days after she disappeared, there was a ski pass in the video with Maura Murray's name and the date February 11th, which was 2 days after she had disappeared. So she shouldn't technically have a ski pass when she's disappeared.
Yeah, what the fuck?
What do you guys think of that? Because I don't know what to think of that.
That was at Loon Mountain too, as well. And
How far is Loon Mountain from where from where she crashed?
I'm not sure the distance of it. I don't think it's too far. But there is another one of the suspects in the case known as the Loon Mountain 3. What do you know about that, Adam?
It's actually 3 guys. I don't know if they're all 3 brothers or 2 of them are brothers, but basically they worked on Loon Mountain. I don't know if they were instructors or people that were, somehow they were associated with working there, but it was thought that maybe they could have picked Maura up out front of Butch Atwood's house. There isn't a whole lot out on them. I don't even know if they're considered suspects. I don't think they are.
I think it was just another one of those rabbit holes in this case, but there's a rumor that all 3 of the Loon Mountain 3 actually did not show up for work the day after Maura disappeared.
I'd heard the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Huh.
I
Maybe
mean,
we should look into them.
well, I mean, you have, but I mean,
There's not a lot of info on them.
right.
Oh,
There isn't
okay.
much.
Okay.
So, another one to look at would be her father, Fred. I mean, you can't
I don't give much credibility to this one.
I mean,
No.
either.
No, most of the evidence I feel like on that one comes from James Renner.
Some of the stuff that they say is, he took out $4,000. What did he do with that? And what I've heard is that he put it into her bank account in case she was on the run and maybe she needed that.
Yeah, and that money hasn't been touched.
Has not been touched.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Did it go back into his own account? Is that what happened?
It's
I
an
don't know.
account that Maura has access to. I do know that.
That's a
okay.
normal thing. She was in college. Her parents were trying to help. My parents did stuff like that.
And
So
now
that's-
I'm assuming that account is still open today in case she needs it.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the deal with Fred. I can't really. I don't know. We can rule Fred out. I think on this one, guys.
I don't think he did anything.
Anything I've heard of Fred doesn't seem very credible. And like I said, the amount of time he puts into this case is just too much for me to think he's a suspect.
He reminds me a lot of Kim Moreau's dad.
Yep.
Where he'd been putting up signs for 30 years
Yep.
and is still looking and just every day.
Yep.
That's
And
his
he'll never
main
let it go.
focus. Right, exactly. That just doesn't seem like something that he would do.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of respect for Fred. Actually,
too.
doing all this research.
I do too.
To be honest with you.
And he's very, very, very willing to help. If you, news agency or anything, wants to sit down and do any kind of interview, he's right on it. So
Right.
Unless you're James Renner.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't
Fuck
want
that guy.
James
Yeah.
Renner says a lot of things about him that are completely off the wall and
No.
most likely baseless.
He's
What
the Twitter mob before the Twitter mob.
Right.
What was Maura's mother's name? Is it Lori? I've got it in my notes somewhere, but I put some of my notes in the other
Laura.
shed. Laura?
I don't know. It'd just
I think
be
it was
funny.
Lori.
It'd just be funny if it was Laura.
Let me see here.
Maura
I think
and
I
Laura.
got it right here.
Then they have a cat named Nora.
Lori. We'll say Lori.
It was
You know,
Lori.
I just got to say at this time, you haven't heard us really bring up Lori at all. And the fact is that Lori was she was suffering from cancer at the time.
Isn't it weird? Just a funny coincidence. Kim Moreau's mom was going through the same thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't remember what anniversary it was, but one of Maura's dates of being missing, her mother died.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Lori. But yeah, that's why you don't hear much about her. It wasn't that she wasn't involved. It was that she had her own, other struggles going on
Right.
at the time. Now, what else? Where else can we take this possibility? I mean, you guys ever heard about the? Was it Brittany Maitland?
Brittany Maitland, yeah, she was another teenager. I believe she was 16. She disappeared in Vermont, probably 40 minutes away from where Maura disappeared. And, of course, naturally, kind of connect the two cases. But everything I've heard is not relating those two cases together. That seems the Brittany Maitland case seems to be more of a drug dealer type of situation.
She owed someone money type of thing.
Or she knew something on somebody that...
And shouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But-
I think, I'm sorry, Jason.
Yeah, but that actually, the reason why those cases are semi-connected is there's another suspect. His name's Israel Keys, and he actually, basically, he was a serial killer, and his hunting grounds were in New England and the Pacific coast out near Washington and Oregon.
I think he got nailed in Alaska when he abducted a barista.
Yeah,
Barista.
Yeah, that somebody serves you coffee.
yeah, but he
Coffee.
did hunt in New
Do
England,
they talk like New Yorkers?
He said New Hampshire was his hunting ground.
New Hampshire, and Vermont specifically. He actually hid murder kits around the country, just things that he would use to murder somebody. And he took trips. He hid these murder kits all around in his areas. And then when he decided he wanted to go hunting, he'd go to the area where one of those murder kits was. And he actually, one time he flew from Colorado to Chicago and then drove to New Hampshire to kill an elderly couple.
Yeah, I
So
heard that.
he did a lot of
Fuck.
things to cover his tracks. They say he's one of the most difficult serial killers ever to find. The only reason they did find him is because he murdered a girl, asked for ransom for the first time. He must have been short on money or something like that.
This guy was everywhere. I
Everywhere.
mean, I don't know how the fuck I haven't looked into him enough, but I mean, this guy had some cash.
Yeah,
He had some cheddar.
but he asked for a ransom for this woman, and it was paid. And then he started using her debit card to access the money. So
That was not right.
quickly found after that in Alaska.
And I'm not saying I'm on his side, but that was just not a bright move.
No.
Fun fact on this guy: he lived up in Smyrna, Maine, at some
Really?
point. Yeah, that's way up north.
Where
That's heading up to Holbrook. What's that town up there, up north with the? It's heading up there at the end of the 95.
Madawaska.
End of the 95.
Fort
Holton.
Kent? Holton.
I said up to Holton.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's up there. So this
I'm
guy
learning all
liked
kinds
his
of new
quiet
things.
places. I believe he had killed himself. What he had asked for was a quick execution in prison, because he has a daughter, and he, to spare her, all the
He didn't mind her knowing about the murders, but he didn't want her to find out about the sexual assaults he had done.
yeah.
And maybe don't do them.
Well, I think he had
Good
hung
idea.
himself and slit his wrist.
Yeah, he did. And I don't give much credit to him in this case or the Brittany Maitland case. I don't think those two cases are related. But the one thing that is very interesting about the Israel Keys is that the time that Maura disappeared, he actually was unaccounted for in that time.
Yeah.
The FBI has a pretty good record on his whereabouts within a couple of years there, but there's about a 6-day period in February of that year that the FBI just doesn't know where he was. So
So you can't really rule
him out.
Right. As a suspect, huh, Jake?
No, I guess you can't. I didn't do that much research on him.
Yeah.
The little bit I did, they did say that he typically doesn't kill in the same place twice. Like I said, he had killed an elderly couple in Manchester, New Hampshire, I believe. So I don't know if his, not killing somebody.
That's far.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like not in the same state twice, not in the same county, region, whatever. Everybody knows, two crimes across different states is much harder to solve just because law enforcement likes to dick measure instead of work with each other.
But we would all
right.
probably agree that Israel Keys is a possibility, but probably not.
But definitely
high
can't rule
on the
him
high
out.
end of the suspect list. What can you tell us about Hussein Baghdadi? I know you know quite a bit about him.
Oh, that was the track coach, right?
Baghdadi.
Yeah, that was the track coach. He's an interesting suspect because there's not a lot on him, but what there is kind of intriguing. He was the track coach, which Maura was on the UMass track team. He was actually having an affair with Maura, which of course gives him some connection to her. That's pretty important.
And I think that James Renner also kind of, we'll say, instigates that she may have been having orgies with the track team.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence to say that, so I don't even want to.
There is no evidence for that, but I will say that Hussein Baghdadi also says that she was sleeping with other members of the track team while having an affair with him. And so to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he's jealous. He's also the only person in the case anywhere close to Maura that said that she actually had told him she wanted to disappear.
Yeah, that's true.
That's an interesting little tidbit that I didn't know.
Yeah, that's another little fact there. So if you're gonna say Baghdadi has something to do with this, how would you include him as a tandem driver?
I would say that's one of the theories is that she had a tandem driver where she wiped out, hopped in another car with somebody that was going to the same location as her. But one thing about Baghdadi is he has access to a cabin from UMass Amherst that's actually within just a few driving miles from where Maura disappears. So there's a theory that they may have been going to this cabin to get away with Valentine's Day weekend the next weekend. Of course, she's having an affair on him. Her boyfriend obviously doesn't know this, but she hasn't really been talking to him too much for the last few days either.
I heard they were having a falling out, and you do bring up an interesting theory. But my thought is that if there is a tandem driver involved, Jake, why wouldn't Butch Atwood have seen this tandem driver? I mean, he was not that, he was right there. He was kind of keeping an eye on things in a sense.
Yeah, see, I have a problem with that tandem driver theory too, just because how far away would that person have to be following? And would they be coming from the same way? And if not, wouldn't Butch have seen this person driving in front of his house?
You would think so.
But then again, if he's not looking out the window, you know what I mean? Or if he's not in the bus.
And also, I mean, why wouldn't he have seen Maura disappear to begin with?
Right,
Whether there was a
exactly.
driver or not. She was there and then she wasn't.
And I don't remember hearing or seeing anything else where someone had reported seeing another vehicle behind her at all, unless you guys have maybe seen something different.
No. And you would have assumed a tandem driver would have been right up her ass, like fucking wreck
Right.
the car, jump in, and let's go to Canada.
Yeah.
C'est bon.
Either that, or maybe it gotten so close to her that she lost control of her car. She got nervous.
Yeah. There is one witness, however, though, that does claim they saw a car in front of her, and it was actually
Really?
a police cruiser, and it was before the official timeline.
Huh?
Yeah. So Baghdadi. I mean, we can kind of yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe.
There's also a theory here on this that I mean, remember if we go back to episode 1, part 1, the was it Sarah
Alfieri.
Alfieri and her friend Kate Markopoulos.
Yep.
They might have been involved.
They definitely could have been involved. I don't know if they were directly involved or maybe they know something.
Kate doesn't talk much.
Kate doesn't talk much at all. So there's a rumor that she supposedly told Fred Murray the, quote, real story. And Fred didn't seem like it was any valuable information or anything like that. So
What was her real story?
nobody knows.
Nobody knows. And Alfieri says she was too drunk. She was too hammered to
I
remember
believe
really.
that. College parties.
I'm not going to say no to that because, I mean, shit, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's her dorm. It ain't like she's got to drive. I mean,
right.
There's a witness that said that they saw Maura leave that party with a man and then return. But there's only one witness who had said that out of the entire party.
I mean, even that could have been, potentially Baghdadi. I mean,
Right.
who knows?
Well, not only that, but it could just be the one person that happened to see her. After all, it's a party. People aren't necessarily
Exactly.
paying attention to
That's
who's
true.
leaving, who's coming in.
But she did leave that party that night that she wrecked her father's car with Kate Markopoulos. So
Now, if we take this crime back to the scene, I mean, what do we think of, Officer John Monahan?
John Monahan, see, there's a witness, Karen McNamara, and she actually said that she left work. I believe she was some kind of physical therapist or something. She was supposed to have an appointment at 7 o'clock, and the patient never showed up. So she ended up leaving at about 7:10 that night and driving home. Of course, there's no cell phone signal. She claims that she was passed by an officer in an SUV with the number 001 on it.
Passed twice.
Passed twice. The first time she was passed, it's kind of like a loop in the road. She kept going straight, and the officer hit the loop, and she ended up getting in front of him again. So she got passed twice by the same officer, which of course she thought was interesting. So she kind of noted that in her head. Not that it was anything important to her at the time.
Right.
But then when she drove by the crash scene, it was, I believe, around 7:36, which was very, very shortly after the accident happened. Well, she claims when she drove past the accident scene, Officer 001 was at the scene, which is never marked in any official documents. The first 911 call comes in about 8 minutes after that supposedly takes place.
Okay, see, I could see that getting lost in official paperwork.
In fact, the state police, I think, filed the report the following day. I mean, because the other jurisdiction would be the local police were handling it, and they were kind of like coming in as an assistance, like a backup thing also.
And the thing is you could see that being lost in the official paperwork, but that officer in the 001 car was gone when the first other officer arrived. So why would he leave the accident scene?
That's a really good question, because if you're telling a cop, no, I'm good, the cop's not going to...
He doesn't care.
No,
He's
the cop's going to
investigate
say,
either way.
I'm going to sit here and figure out what the fuck's going on here.
Does that pretty much cover all the Shed's potential suspects? I mean, we haven't touched on the A-frame house yet, but is there any other people that we feel like we need to...
Yeah, you did it. It's your fault.
There's one other interesting person. Well, two, they're kind of connected, but Catherine and Tim, her sister and brother-in-law. One of the rumors is... or one of the theories is that Maura has just disappeared voluntarily on her own. She was tired of life the way it was going at UMass, so she decided to take off to Canada, wherever. But one of the theories is that the night before she disappeared, the phone call she got from her sister really upset her. She basically what the documents say is that her sister had just left rehab. She was an alcoholic, and you find out later that her sister's actually an alcoholic because her ex-boyfriend killed himself and basically blamed it on her. So she was an alcoholic and going through some serious issues for years, in and out of rehab.
Right.
Well, she had just gotten out of rehab and called Maura and said that Tim was stopping at a liquor store so they could get alcohol. So that upset Maura.
Yeah, she's thinking her sister's falling right back off.
Exactly, and this is something the family's been dealing with for years. So Maura's boss that night shows up, and she's basically works at the front desk. She's supposed to be semi-security. You can't get in without a badge.
Kind of like check-in.
Right.
Yeah.
And Maura's supervisor walked in and sees people just walking past her, and she's not even really noticing at all. So she kind of asks Maura what's wrong. She gets ignored. This goes on for a few minutes, and she said Maura seemed almost like she was in a catatonic state.
I had heard the same thing.
And her boss basically had to walk her up to the stairs. She never said anything that was wrong other than the words "my sister."
So it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I think there's maybe one more thing we got to touch on here. The A-frame house.
A-frame house.
Yeah.
That's could be a very big part of this case. Could be nothing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
strange.
A-frame house is what, maybe a mile from the house?
It was,
from
well,
the
when was it built?
location?
Do you guys know? I think it was built in 1976.
76. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And the original owner was still living there at the time.
They still
right?
owned it. They had tenants that were living there.
Okay, so they were renting it out?
Yeah.
Okay. What's up with the A-frame house, guys?
Well, there was a bunch of shit. When you look at it, it's kind of run down and ratty looking and whatever. And there was a period where it was vacant for a while. Eventually, police got in there and started looking around, and things didn't look all that great.
The reason why the police kind of came onto it was the knife that we
The
talked
knife.
about before.
An episode
that was
part
given
one.
to Fred. That Fred had to mail in.
Oh, it was that brother's house,
That
wasn't
brother
Yeah.
lived in that house.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was he living there at the time, and he wouldn't consent to a search?
I don't believe they ever tried to search while he was living there. I think when Fred gave the police the knife, it just kind of went on the back burner.
So did they go check it out when nobody was living there? That's what happened?
Yeah, when nobody was living there, the police went, checked it out.
And I think it was assumed that there were squatters there
Yeah,
also,
it was-
while it was between owners.
Right, I heard it was kind of squatters, and it was also people that were using it as like a hunting type of shack. I guess there was a room out front that had like a big metal chain that was used for stringing up the deer.
Yeah. I had heard a rumor that they were using it to not skin deer, but to prep deer meat.
Yeah,
But at some point in time, they brought scent dogs in there because of the knife.
they did. Yep, and there was one closet that had some carpet in it.
I think it was in the master bedroom. Not that there's
right.
many
No, it was
bedrooms
off-
in
it was
this
off the
A-frame house.
downstairs.
Was it down
It was
off the
downstairs, yeah.
downstairs?
Now they didn't. Okay, now I listened to a couple of the Missing Maura Murray podcasts this week, and one of them was an interview of the previous owners of the house, and they had said that they had sprayed luminol in that closet that you were talking about.
Right.
Yeah, but
Now
we
the
got
police didn't come in for that; they came in for something else.
This was
right?
before they were there. I believe
This was before these people bought the house.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
they
Yeah,
went
this
in.
is
They,
before the
they-
police.
Okay,
police
I'm just
docs
trying to
came in.
clarify that. For
yeah, they
myself.
took a sample of the carpeting and it came back negative for anything, right?
They found the carpet had nothing, but the cadaver dogs basically went bonkers on that closet.
Is it possible that maybe something could have happened in that closet and the previous owners might have removed the carpeting and put down some new carpeting in the meantime?
It'd be very easy to do.
It's
know,
certainly possible.
I
Right.
had heard that there were from the owners that you were speaking of, Jake, that when they moved in, there was like
Piles of carpets,
in
yeah.
the outside, out back, with weeds and all kinds of other shit going through it.
Not only did I hear that, but I believe they even said that there was like sections of walls missing throughout the house
Yep.
because it was all wood paneling inside, and they said it looked like someone had haphazardly cut holes in the wall for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
There was no piping running through these walls. There was no electric. It was just random holes.
Yep.
I mean, it's an A-frame. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It is very creepy looking though.
Yeah. Now, would this be a good time to take it to the next owners, the people that had moved in and purchased it? I can't remember their names.
Yeah, I don't remember their names either, but they moved in shortly after. I believe it was 2008 or 9, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and they had moved in. Of course, after a couple weeks, they had heard rumors about their house, and they Googled it and found out that the cadaver dogs had hid on that closet when the police searched it. So they were, of course, curious about that because cadaver dogs will only hit on the scent of a dead human.
Yeah,
So all the deer and whatnot in that house would have no relevance to those cadaver dogs.
of course.
So the new owners, they actually got luminol, which is designed to find blood. Now, there's a problem with that. Jake did some research. Luminol can hit on more than just blood, correct?
Yeah, luminol can hit on more than just blood. It hits on different metals. Hits on iron, and there's a couple other ones. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it hits on more than just human blood. But there's something in human blood. Or there's something in blood. It probably is the iron that it picks up on, and it glows like crazy. And that closet just lit up.
Yeah, so there was obviously the cadaver dogs hid in that closet. And there was obviously blood everywhere. I mean, did they do any tests on the blood, Adam?
You know what? I believe they had sent wood chips from that wood paneling to be tested, and what had come back was that there was 2 different DNA profiles in it. But most likely the walls were probably cleaned several times.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah,
what they're able to
hands
show
down.
is that there's 2 different DNA profiles. I think one being a female
Yeah, and
but-
the other one is unknown.
is unknown, but they're unable to necessarily link it to Maura.
Right.
At this time, there's a couple named Mike and Sarah
Yes.
living in
is
that
them,
house.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another couple that buys the house later on. Their names are Christina and Joel.
Right. Yeah. So it was Mike. It was Mike and his wife that did the first test. The
Yeah,
luminal
and
test.
I remember listening to that first episode, and Mike and Sarah get really detailed, and they talk about how much they loved the house, but they couldn't get over the weird feeling it gave them. And their daughter, one of their daughters, told them, like, I guess right when they moved in, this house is weird. Someone died here. I don't like it. I don't want to be here. And she could never get comfortable in the house.
This girl was like 6, I think.
Yeah, she was really young.
Yeah.
And I remember listening too when they said they decided to move out just, for the sake of their own lives and their kids and whatever. That they didn't tell the daughter anything until after they had moved, and the daughter will not let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said that she heard somebody saying her name in the night from one of the closets.
That's the creepiest sound,
Super
especially
creepy.
being really young. Can you
Exactly.
imagine what she was going through?
Yeah. No, this is it's very interesting. I mean, is there any other avenues that we need to take this down? Any other rabbit holes, red herrings?
How much time you got?
I mean, I'm fine. We can stay out, but
Yeah.
This
I
case
mean,
is endless. So
where else do we go with this? I
If
mean,
you,
is
if
there
you
any other
folks want to
suspects?
research this, you can go for days.
Oh,
No,
of
you really
course.
could. There's entire subreddits dedicated to this. There's entire communities online that just
mean-
people will not drop it.
As far as the A-frame house goes, all we know is that there's blood from 2 different people in there
And there was a dead body in the closet.
Yep. And
because the cadaver dog went nuts.
And those same cadaver dogs, they actually hit on a pond that was across the street from that house, where there was a dead body found in 1986. That scent was still there.
Yeah.
So,
oh shit.
Yeah.
Now, did any of you, or did either of you guys read about the concrete slab on that property
I
that was
did.
not supposed to be there?
I did.
Because when Mike and Sarah apparently first bought the house, they didn't realize it was a concrete slab until springtime, and then they look and they're like, "Oh, that's really weird." And I guess they called the town or whatever, and the town was
There was
like,
no
"You don't
records.
have that.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
talking
No
about?"
permit
So
for it.
there was no permit for it to be there. They had that concrete slab investigated, and there wasn't anything
Nothing there.
underneath it.
Yeah.
But-
So I don't know. I think we've kind of
I don't know. I
kind of
think
tore
we
this one apart, didn't we, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we should wrap this one up. What do you,
Yeah.
let's end this. What do you
Oh,
guys think
man.
happened? We'll
Oh.
each kind of sum that up, I guess, and then we can go into our plugs, and
Jason, what happened, man?
that'll be the end of that.
Why don't you
It's-
solve this one for us? Solve it for the shed. Solve
I-
it for the Murrays.
I change my mind every day on this. So I honestly, it could be as simple as her getting in a crash, trying to run from the police, and dying in the woods. It could be that simple. But for some reason, Rick Forcier just sticks in my mind. I don't know if he picked her up in front of the house, if he kept her in her basement to cook for him. But the fact that he saw
Well, maybe
her
he set
5
her up with a nice kitchen.
I think
Got her
that-
all new appliances, all nice stainless steel, marble countertops.
As long as he sprung for a KitchenAid mixer, I think he's fine. But
Yeah, right.
but yeah, the fact that
It's a fucked up joke.
he saw her 5 miles from the crash site supposedly puts her at a place far away from his house, which just seems a little convenient for
Though
him.
the scent was lost fairly close to his residence.
Directly in front
right
of his
there.
house, but he saw her 5 miles away. And one thing, Butch Atwood too also said that her hair was down at the crash site, and in the ATM footage, her hair was up, and her whole family said she never wore her hair down. So that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
But
Huh.
So are you saying that maybe there's a potential that somebody other than Maura was driving that car that night?
that's one of the theories.
That is one of the theories too.
That's an odd theory I've never heard before.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of out there, but it is a possibility.
Yeah. But I just can't shake the feeling Rick Forcier had something to do with it. I don't know what he did or how he did it, but something just seems a little convenient about him. She had an 8-minute window to disappear.
Right.
So there's a very limited amount of people who could have done it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to agree with Jason here. I mean, Forcier is kind of odd. I mean, here's my thing. This happens in my neighborhood, all right? Something terrible happens in my neighborhood, and the police are talking to me. Sure as shit, I'm going to do everything I can to clear my name.
And everybody else in the neighborhood is cooperating except for him.
If you've got nothing to hide, then hide nothing, right?
Tim and Faith, Bruce and his wife, they're all over helping the case.
You're growing a little bit of weed in your house, supposedly. Who gives a shit?
Right.
They're not talking to you about some weed. They're
Well,
talking
this
about a
is New
missing girl.
Hampshire, after all.
But you know what, though? They're there about the girl. They're not there about the weed.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to come back on you for it.
I mean, they could, but
I'm not saying that's a valid excuse to not help someone who's missing, but
It's also an excuse to any future warrant, pretty much.
And
yeah,
then-
exactly. You're just you're asking for the attention, and that's just a rumor that he was growing weed.
I'd rather get busted on some bud than busted on some missing chick.
Maybe not in New Hampshire.
Maybe
Yeah,
not
no,
New Hampshire, but
they're pretty fucking harsh.
We
in New
live in-
He
Hampshire
might
with
get
that.
the same time in jail for that.
Maine's a free
Yeah.
state, so I mean, I don't know what it's like to live under those kind of circumstances, but
Yeah, as much as I hate winter, I really do like Maine.
yeah.
Maine's a
too.
pretty
Safe
relaxed
place.
state. Yeah, exactly.
But-
you don't have to worry about walking anywhere, doing anything. At
We had
any hour
18
of the day.
homicides this year.
Ooh.
I gotta say
Wait, in
though,
2019?
I gotta say, guys, though,
18.
Oh, okay, that's better. Phew.
Forcier does smell like a turd. He looks like a turd, smells like a turd,
It's probably a turd.
probably a turd.
Probably.
I don't know. I think he's got something to do with it. If you ask me tomorrow morning, I might tell you she ran off into the mountains and walked out of everybody's lives
and-
forever. But I
see,
don't know.
and that's I kind of, maybe it's just because I try to see the positive, or not really positive, but like a not so gruesome side of it. I think there are a couple different possibilities. I think she did kind of what you said, Jason, where she was drunk. She was trying to get away from the situation. Just, I've had a horrible last couple days. Let's not forget. She got a call about her sister a few days before this. She wrecks her dad's car, and now she's wrecked her car. What could be going through her head at this point? She probably just wants to get away from life. So it's possible that maybe she just ran away and, like you said, just died somehow.
Yeah.
And in the woods, it's not going to take long for animals to find her.
Not at all.
It's not. And once they have her, who knows what you're going to find.
There's been
You know
lots
what
of
I mean?
bear sightings in that area too. So it wouldn't-
Yeah.
wouldn't take
It's
long.
and it's the middle of the woods. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Wouldn't last long.
Either that, or maybe she ran away.
Tandem driver.
I don't believe the tandem driver thing either. But then again, who would have taken her from the accident scene?
I think it was the aliens that abducted the Allagash guys.
Could have been
Oh, maybe,
Markopolis.
maybe.
Markopolis and
we vowed to
Alfieri.
we vowed to never bring up that episode again.
That's why I did it.
Oh, thanks.
It's almost cringeworthy.
Listen, we're only, I don't know, 10 in now.
But
Talk to me in like 100.
yeah, true. But so what are you saying? I mean, you're saying you don't know.
I feel like she probably took off somewhere.
You think she disappeared?
I just feel like if there's been reported sightings of her,
You
maybe
know,
she's out there. Maybe that's just the optimistic side of me talking too.
How many times has somebody ever told you look like somebody else though?
And that's the other part of me that's like, you know what, you're probably right, because I've been told that many times
Yeah.
that,
And
I
she
saw
has
someone
a-
that looked just like you at the store.
She has pretty normal characteristics.
Yeah,
so,
she's
too, so.
and I'm not saying that she's not pretty, but she's not like someone who would stand out.
No, she's
you know
not
what I mean?
6'5" behemoth. So
Yeah, right. Well, she's not Snooki, where you're gonna recognize her on every picture that you ever see ever. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, she's just a average white chick.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
but,
and that's okay.
Yeah, no, of course. But is that where we're at with this one?
That's kind of where I'm at.
I gotta
think
say
we all-
though, if anybody knows anything about the disappearance of Maura Murray, please contact.
1-800 the lost.
Yes, of course, and the New Hampshire State Police.
Whatever their number is,
Yeah.
603 something. Google that shit.
Don't contact us.
Do contact us. Don't tell them not to contact
Not
us.
about
We have
Maura
so-
Murray. Not about Maura Murray. Unless
Listen.
you want to share about this episode.
Listen, we have so many ways for you guys to get in contact with us. Why don't we bring some of those up instead? Don't listen to Adam. Don't contact us. Fuck you. Rude ass.
Tell us where
This is
she
why
is.
Dino won't come up out of the floor, because you're like, don't talk to us.
I think Jake wants a hiking trip. Shrimp. Just like what was it, the missing Maura Murray guys?
I want to.
Somebody had emailed them
too.
and told them
Coordinates.
the coordinates, and they went on a little adventure.
No shit.
I'll take you guys on a New England adventure. Let's go.
Not
Send us
to
a,
where-
Coordinates,
Jake wants the
supposedly.
coordinates. Send us the coordinates. We're going.
Those
Yeah,
coordinates
right.
are supposedly where her body was buried.
Well, send it to us. We'll go too.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Do we bring spades, just in case? Can you imagine if we were walking through the woods and found her?
We'll bring my dog. She's
We'll
got
bring
a
the
nose.
dog.
Yeah,
Jack, come here. Oh no, we gotta get the other one.
the other one.
Yeah, the other one, the one with the good nose.
So what's our social media, man? Give us a good plug.
All right, if you guys have any story suggestions, just want to talk some shit, say a good job, say you guys fucking suck. You have anything to add to these episodes, you can find us on Facebook at Stories from the Shed, Instagram Stories from the Shed Podcast. We're now on YouTube, Stories from the Shed podcast. I did find that when you look us up, you find us as SFTS podcast, and there's another podcast that has
Straight
a
from the
similar
stables.
name. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
listened to it. I don't know if it's good or not. I have no idea. I saw it and I'm like, that's interesting. And then
Sounds
you
country.
Yeah, well, and then you sent me the link, and you're like, "Oh no, look, these guys have our name," and I'm like, "That's straight from the stable. We're Stories from the Shed."
Yeah, two
It's
different
a-
dudes.
It's a two different,
Different thing.
it's two different setups, and they have like 4 people, and they sit around a card table and drink beer and whatever.
We're in a shed. They're in a stable.
Well, no, they're actually in a house,
Whatever.
from what I could see. But either way, they're sitting at a card table. We're sitting at a kitchen table.
In a shed.
It makes all the difference.
How else can they find us here?
Okay. They can find us on Twitter at Stories from Shed, but I suck at Twitter, so you might want to take that back.
I'll
over
twitch
too.
you.
Okay, sounds good. We got iMessage for people who have grown up and moved out of the Android phase.
Jake will message you.
Yeah, no, well, I'll get your message. I might message you back. Maybe.
You will.
I
He
will.
loves you.
Yeah, I love you all. sftspodcast@gmail.com, and that is also our email.
Yeah. And thanks for listening. Jason, thanks for coming on. It was
No
a
problem.
pleasure
We'll have
having
to
you
do it
here.
again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. You've been an invaluable source of information. You did more research than I did this week.
You will hear Jason again.
Absolutely. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, guys.